You did this to yourself, Mom hissed, roughly applying aloe vera to my blistered hands. If you hadn't stolen Amber's role, none of this would have happened. I bit my lip, fighting back tears as the gel stung my raw skin. The basement theater's cold fluorescent lights had revealed every detail of my injury to the director, Miss Carter. Now, sitting in our pristine kitchen 12 hours later, my mother was desperately trying to craft a narrative that wouldn't destroy our family's perfect image. My name is Sofia Martinez, and at 17, I just landed the lead role in our school's production of The Phantom of the Opera. It should have been the happiest moment of my life. Instead, I was watching my skin bubble and peel, courtesy of my sister's accident with a curling iron. Amber stood in the doorway, her perfectly styled hair framing a face that showed no remorse. I told you to drop out, Sophia. You never listen. My sister had always been the star, the golden child who could do no wrong. For years, I'd stayed in the background handling tech and props while she took center stage. But when Miss Carter announced open auditions for Christine, something in me refused to back down this time. The burns will heal, Mom said, wrapping gauze around my hands. We'll get you special makeup. No one needs to know about this family matter. Family matter? That's what everything was in our house. The time Amber pushed me down the stairs for getting a better grade. Family matter. When she accidentally deleted my college application videos, family matter. Now, this, deliberately pressing a scorching curling iron against my palms while I slept, was just another secret to keep. Dad walked in, his hospital scrubs still on from his night shift. As the city's most respected pediatrician, he was an expert at looking the other way when it came to his own family. Sophia, he sighed, examining my hands with clinical detachment. These need proper medical attention. No hospitals, Mom snapped. We have everything we need here. Besides, rehearsals start tomorrow. She needs to be ready. I stared at my father, silently pleading. For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes, concern, maybe even guilt. But then Amber spoke. Daddy, Sophia is just being dramatic. She's trying to ruin my senior year because she's jealous. I've played lead in every production since freshman year. This was supposed to be my finale. Dad's face hardened. Your mother's right. We'll treat this at home. Sophia, you need to think about how your actions affect others. My actions. Of course. Somehow this was my fault. That night, I lay in bed, my hands throbbing. The pain medication Dad had given me barely touched the surface. Through the wall, I could hear Amber practicing her vocals, songs for a role she no longer had. Each perfect note felt like another burn. Morning brought new challenges. Mom spent an hour applying specialized makeup to my hands, cursing every time the gauze showed through. Remember, she warned, if anyone asks, you were practicing curling techniques for the show. It was an accident. At school, I felt like I was sleepwalking. The makeup was thick and uncomfortable, making it hard to move my fingers without cracking the carefully constructed facade. During classes, I kept my hands under the desk, praying no one would notice. Then came theater rehearsal. Miss Carter had scheduled costume fittings first. As the costume designer helped me into Christine's elaborate dress, I tried to keep my hands hidden, but fate had other plans. Sophia, could you lift your arms for the measurements? Miss Carter asked, clipboard in hand. As I raised my arms, the sleeve of my costume slipped. The harsh stage lights revealed what the careful makeup couldn't hide, angry red burns wrapping around both palms, the pattern of the curling iron's barrel clearly visible. The costume designer gasped. Miss Carter moved closer, her eyes narrowing as she took in the deliberate nature of the injuries. Everyone out, she commanded, her voice cutting through the chattering students. Sophia, stay here. My heart pounded as the theater emptied. Amber lingered by the door, her face a mixture of threat and fear before Miss Carter's stern look sent her scurrying. Show me your hands, Miss Carter said quietly once we were alone. It was an accident, I recited, the practiced lie tasting bitter. I was curling my hair. Sophia, her voice was gentle but firm. I've been teaching theater for 20 years. I know what curling iron burns look like. No accident causes symmetrical burns on both palms. Tears welled up in my eyes as she carefully held my wrists, examining the damage. Your sister did this, didn't she? The question hung in the air like the final note of a tragic aria. I couldn't speak, but my silence was answer enough. And your parents? They said it's a family matter. Miss Carter's face darkened. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts with determined precision. What are you doing? I asked, panic rising in my throat. Making a call that should have been made long ago, she replied, looking at me with fierce protection in her eyes. Some matters are too big for families to handle alone. As she dialed, I saw Amber watching through the theater door window, her perfect facade finally cracking with fear. The next morning, 2 Child Protective Services investigators arrived at our house. I watched from my bedroom window as their government-issued car pulled into our perfectly manicured driveway, disrupting the illusion of suburban tranquility we'd maintained for years. Mom was in the kitchen, frantically scrubbing already spotless counters when the doorbell rang. Amber sat at the breakfast bar, her face pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. Dad had already left for his hospital shift, conveniently avoiding what was about to unfold. Sophia, Mom hissed up the stairs, come down here right now and put on your gloves. But it was too late. Miss Carter had taken photos yesterday, clear, undeniable evidence of what had been done to me. The investigators, a stern-looking woman named Mrs. Bennett and her younger colleague, Mr. Torres, were already seated in our living room when I came downstairs. Mrs. Martinez, Mrs. Bennett began, her voice professional but firm, we've received a report concerning some serious injuries to Sophia's hands. We'd like to speak with her privately. Mom's perfectly maintained smile faltered. This is ridiculous. It was a simple accident. Girls experiment with hairstyling all the time. Then you won't mind if we speak with Sophia alone, Mr. Torres replied, his kind eyes meeting mine. They led me to our study, closing the door on Mom's protests. For the next hour, I told them everything, not just about the burns, but about years of Amber's escalating behavior and my parents' constant cover-ups. My hands shook as I described the curling iron incident, how I'd woken up to searing pain and Amber standing over me, warning me to drop out of the play. Your drama teacher mentioned previous incidents, Mrs. Bennett said gently. Can you tell us about those? So, I did, the stairs, the deleted videos, the lost acceptance letter from a prestigious summer theater program. With each revelation, I felt lighter, as if speaking the truth was finally breaking the spell of silence that had bound our family for years. Meanwhile, I could hear Mom's voice rising in the living room as she was questioned by other officials who had arrived. Amber's sobs echoed through the house, not tears of remorse, but of fury at being exposed. I want to press charges, I said finally, my voice stronger than I'd expected. Not just for this, but for everything. Mrs. Bennett nodded, making notes in her file. Given the severity and pattern of abuse and your age, that's your right. We'll need to document your injuries properly at the hospital. Just then, the study door burst open. Dad stood there, still in his scrubs, having rushed home from work. His face was a storm of emotions, anger, fear, and something else I'd never seen before, shame. This is a misunderstanding, he began, his doctor's authority coding each word. As a medical professional, Mr. Torres cut in, you should be especially concerned about these injuries. The pattern suggests deliberate harm, Dr. Martinez, and your failure to seek proper medical treatment could be considered negligent. Dad's face went pale. His carefully constructed world of respectability was crumbling, and he knew it. Sophia, he pleaded, think about your sister's future, her college applications. What about my future? I stood up, holding out my bandaged hands. What about all the futures you've let her steal from me while you looked the other way? The room fell silent. In that moment, I saw my father, really saw him, for the first time, not as the respected doctor or the distant parent, but as someone who had failed his youngest daughter in every way that mattered. Mrs. Bennet stepped between us. Dr. Martinez, given your position at the Children's Hospital, will need to conduct a thorough investigation. Your medical license could be affected by this. He staggered back as if struck. His reputation, the thing he valued most, was now at risk. From downstairs came the sound of breaking glass, followed by Amber's scream of rage. Mom's placating voice rose above the chaos, still trying to maintain control of a situation long past controlling. I'd like to go to the hospital now, I said quietly, turning to Mrs. Bennet. And then I want to call Miss Carter. She should know what's happening. As they led me out of the study, I passed Amber on the stairs. Her perfect mask had cracked completely, revealing the ugliness beneath. You're ruining everything, she snarled. I hate you. For the first time, her words didn't hurt. They just confirmed why I'd finally found the courage to say, this had to end. In the CPS car, driving away from the house that had been my prison for so long, I looked down at my phone. There was a message from Miss Carter, "You're stronger than you know. We're all here for you." I closed my eyes, letting tears fall freely. Tomorrow would bring police statements, hospital examinations, and hard conversations. But for now, I just felt relief. The curtain had finally fallen on my family's performance of perfection. And though the ending wasn't happy, it was real. And real was exactly what I needed it to be. 6 months later, I stood on the stage of our school theater. The spotlight warmed my face as I sang the final notes of Think of Me. The audience erupted in applause, and through the bright lights, I could see Miss Carter wiping tears from her eyes. My hands had healed, leaving only faint scars that told a story of survival. The makeup I wore now was for the character of Christine, not to hide evidence of abuse. The changes in my life had been swift and dramatic after that day. Amber had been arrested and charged with assault. Given her age and my parents' influence, she'd been offered a plea deal, mandatory psychiatric treatment, community service, and she had to stay at least 500 feet away from me. She was now living with our aunt in another state, attending therapy sessions 3 times a week. Mom and Dad faced their own consequences. Dad's medical license was suspended pending review, and both parents were charged with child endangerment. The investigation revealed a pattern of enabling Amber's behavior that stretched back years. They were ordered to attend counseling and parenting classes. As for me, I moved in with my grandmother, Elena, who had been kept in the dark about what was happening in our house. When she learned the truth, she became my fiercest protector. Mija, she'd said the day I moved in this house, you will shine as bright as you want. And shine I did. Without Amber's shadow looming over me, I discovered parts of myself I never knew existed. My voice grew stronger, both on stage and off. I joined the student council, started a support group for students dealing with family abuse, and maintained my spot on the honor roll. The theater became my sanctuary. Miss Carter didn't just direct our plays, she became a mentor, helping me apply to college theater programs and writing glowing recommendations. After the final curtain call of Phantom, I found myself surrounded by my new support system. My grandmother hugged me tightly, whispering proud words in Spanish. My best friend Sarah, who had been the first person I told about the abuse, was holding a bouquet of roses. Even Mrs. Bennet from CPS had come to watch. Sophia, Miss Carter called, making her way through the crowd. "Someone here wants to meet you." Behind her stood a woman in a crisp suit, the dean of the theater department from the state university. "That was quite a performance," she said, handing me her card. "We'd love to have you audition for our program, full scholarship." My hands trembled as I took the card, but this time from joy, not fear. Later that night, at the small celebration party my grandmother hosted, I checked my phone and found a text from Mom. "We saw the video of your performance. You were beautiful. We're sorry for everything. When you're ready, we'd like to talk." I showed the message to my grandmother. She squeezed my shoulder and said, "The choice is yours, Mija. Your healing happens on your timeline, not theirs." She was right. I wasn't ready to forgive yet, but I was ready to move forward. The future stretched before me like an open stage, full of possibilities. Sarah appeared at my side, grinning, ready for the best part of the evening. She led me to my grandmother's garden, where my theater friends had gathered. They'd prepared a surprise, a montage of photos and videos from the past 6 months, showing my journey from those dark days to now. There I was at rehearsals, laughing with the cast, leading a student council meeting, speaking at a community event about standing up against family abuse. "You helped us too, you know," Sarah said softly. "By being brave enough to speak up, you showed others they could do the same." 2 other students in our school had come forward about their own family situations since my story became known. The support group I started now had regular meetings, and Miss Carter had implemented a new policy in the theater department about recognizing and reporting signs of abuse. As I watched the montage end with today's performance, I realized something profound. The real performance had been my old life, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Now, standing in my grandmother's garden, surrounded by people who truly cared about me, I was finally living authentically. "Speech," someone called out. I looked around at these faces, my chosen family, and felt only gratitude. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over, I began. But it was actually just beginning. Sometimes the hardest role to play is yourself. But it's the only one that matters. The night ended with songs around my grandmother's piano, laughter, and plans for the future. As I fell asleep that night, my script for tomorrow's college audition on my bedside table, I thought about how far I'd come. The curtain had risen on my new life.